You. Hey, how y'all doing? Thank y'all for coming to the forum. I appreciate all the support and everybody coming out. Today, BMLA and Justice for the White Movement presenting Justice for You in discussions to end police brutality. Today we're going to discuss a few questions. I have a few questions, 5 questions specifically that I have for the panel and also the crowd, all y'all, if y'all want any questions, concerns. The way it's going to work is, the way the questions are, I'm going to have a special question made for a speaker. And when they answer, after they answer, the crowd can answer the same question or have a question for the speaker, or the panel can answer as well. Just so y'all can have their opinion as well as y'all. Any questions about how things gonna go? So, all right. So, who out here know can tell me what exactly police brutality is? Tell me.
Police brutality is basically the excessive use of force. Police brutality is basically the excessive use of force while officers carrying out their regular duties, whether it's traffic, like stopping traffic, or checking out a certain disturbance or domestic dispute. Basically, just excessive use of his power and his force. Those kind of the things.
Anybody else? Okay. Let's go to my first slide. Explain what police brutality is. Basically what you just said, man, police brutality is a common term used to describe the use by police officers of law enforcement when it's necessary. They make an arrest or control a person. Police brutality or excessive force claims frequently are made when someone is injured or killed during the course of a search or an arrest. Why is this a legal issue? The 4th Amendment of the United States Constitution entitles citizens to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. The Supreme Court has held the amount of force constitutionally used by officers in making arrests and searches determined by the reasonableness standard of the 4th Amendment. So what is the reasonableness? Reasonableness is an objective standard. It does not depend on the officer's motivation. It is determined by looking at all the facts and circumstances confronting the officer at the time the force is used. It is used from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene and not from what is known in hindsight. Do everybody know what that means, basically? So we're about to go into the questions. I'd like all my panel members to introduce themselves one by one. Just say who they are, what they represent. We'll start at the end. Ms. Corey, you want to start out?
How y'all doing this afternoon? My name is Corey Levier. I'm the CEO of 56833 Theos Enterprises. I am the owner of Safe House Firearms and Safety Solutions, which is a firearm training company. I'm an NRA certified instructor with 13 disciplines. I am a combat veteran, 3 tours, Army. I am the president of Together We Are, which is a local charity in Opelousas, Louisiana, with global growth. And that pretty much covers some of what I do. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Andres Landor. I was born and raised here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm an Iraqi veteran. I'm also a retired police officer with the Lafayette City Police Department. I've done narcotics, SWAT, and patrol with some of my assignments.
My name is Attorney Marcus Allen. I came here, I'm from Florida, football player, Q-Dog, South High. I do a lot of different things, you know. I guess I'm called to sit on this panel. I've handled a few cases. I do a lot of entertainment law. I was a DJ. I represented Torrance Hatchlow and his issues. I don't know, I just get down with some of this kind of stuff, so I guess that's why they call me to be on this panel. What organization is it?
This is BMLA, Black Militia Association, also Justice for the White Movement.
Okay, great. Thank y'all for having me. Hopefully we can enlighten you all on some things that we have to say. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
name is Paul Moody. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Lafayette Police Department, also the Crime Prevention Coordinator. Been with the Police Department right at about 25 years. I've been fortunate, kind of like Andre, to work in many sections. I was on the SWAT team for 2 years. I spent 4 years in internal affairs as well as an investigator. Worked as a alcohol traffic action campaign officer, and where I've spent the last 8 years is as a public information officer, trying to disseminate information and putting the message out for the police department. Thank you.
One other thing I forgot to mention, I'm a community activist as well as a member of the NAACP. So thank you.
Before Cindy start reading the questions, I just want to point something out. This is a forum, which is an intellectual discussion. It's not really an argument. So I ask that everybody be respectful of each other's opinions and what others have to say. Just keep that in mind. Just be mindful of that. So, coming off of the original introduction, my first question goes to Mr. Palmerton. When should cops use deadly force?
Well, the way we train our officers is that we follow what's called general orders or policies and procedures. And so I felt the best way was that to read what our officers read and also train or to abide by is our policy. And it reads that the department may only use deadly force when he reasonably believes that is necessary to defend his own life or that of another person in imminent immediate danger of death or serious physical injury. Deadly force shall be defined as that force which is intended to cause death or grave injury, or which creates such a degree of risk that a reasonable or prudent person will consider it likely to cause death or grave injury.
Anybody have any comments, questions about that? Do anybody else know, when do y'all feel like cops should use deadly force?
And I'm gonna speak, and I know that Paul, you know, these guys have been military and professionally trained as officers. The problem that happens generally when we come in as attorneys is that, just like Officer Mouton has read you, when it's necessary to use deadly force, I think most of us, particularly as attorneys representing the layman in the community, is that there is no middle ground. It ain't no shooting the leg, shooting the arm. You know, if I got a knife, why you have to kill him? I think that you all are only taught to use deadly force. If they shoot you, they shoot to kill. They ain't no shoot to injure. And I think that's where you have seen a lot of the controversy come up and a lot of the discrepancy come up within the community, because that's what they're taught, that's what they're trained. Why? I don't know, because I don't think that every situation requires deadly force. I think there are some levels which the job can be accomplished without deadly force. But I did want to put that out there because definitely, although I am an attorney, I'm also a father. I'm also, well, I'm not a husband, but I do understand, you know, but that certainly there are situations in which if you got a gun, then I guess we got to shoot to try to kill, or he's gonna kill me. But if he got a knife, I mean, he ain't throwing nothing, throwing no axes. I don't think you got to shoot him in the heart or shoot him in the head or those types of things. So of course, that's what a lot of times the controversy comes up. So I'm sure they're going to take the adverse position.
Don't assume.
I'm Marjorie Broussard, president for the NAACP chairs. One of them said Lafayette. I want you guys to give yourselves a hand because I am impressed with this turnout. My question is to the police officers. Are you taught in training shoot to kill or shoot to wound?
You can answer. I mean, I know the answer, but he's a police officer now, so I'll let him answer.
Oh, okay, then I'll go after.
We try to teach our officers that you're there to stop the threat. And so there is no shooting. If they have to discharge their weapon, there is no shooting in the arm, they're shooting in the leg. We teach shoot center mass. Because what happens is in a high stress situation, that person's fine motor skills become very weak in that they're stressed out. And so we always teach to shoot center mass, which is the largest portion of the body, and to shoot until that threat is stopped. If that person is continuing to to aggressively move in a direction that he can kill someone or cause seriously bodily injury, then yes, they would continue to engage that individual until that threat is stopped.
Are they trained to shoot the injured? Just for FYI, any soldier, police officer, or anybody with any type of training tell you that they train to injure people, do not believe it. There is no such thing. I'm an NRA instructor now. I was in the Army. You shoot to kill. A gun is considered lethal force. Why would you try to injure someone with lethal force? You can injure someone with the taser. There is no such thing. Once you see the muzzle of a barrel, that is considered lethal force. So let's understand that moving forward. If you ever believe anything else, it's just not true, right? If a police officer is covering you with his firearm and that trigger is pulled, believe me, he has the training for it to go center mass. Center mass covers this area. All of the internal organs, right here, right? We train on a target that covers this, right? This is considered the bullseye right here where your heart is, right? I've been trained, I'm sure these guys have been trained, there is no other shot, right? Some also, different types of training actually prefer one shot, one kill. So that's reality. And it's time we stop living in anything else except reality.
What the heck is the point of having a taser then?
Can you speak up?
What the heck is the point of having a taser?
Less than lethal.
My only question is, so if you are taught shoot to kill, why? Like if there's clearly other situations so where you could get the job done in a less than kill manner, then why are you not taught to shoot to kill when it must be shoot to kill and shoot to harm when it can be shoot to harm?
There's only shoot to kill.
I'm just saying,
The question is why?
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 Because you're also trained in conflict resolution, right? Conflict resolution and less than lethal force are the means to not injure someone, right? You ever heard of a police officer trying to talk someone down, right? Or not use lethal force, they use tasers, right? Even though it's not popular, like the killings that have been happening recently, it's not as popular, it does happen. Police officers are on the job 24/7 around the country, right? But less than lethal force is the option. When the gun is drawn, there is no such thing as less than lethal, right? It's like saying I'm trying to chop your head off with a sword is less than lethal. It's just not. It's brutal, it's terrifying, and it's deadly. And it shouldn't be done unless it's required. And that's, I think, is what you get that.
Something right quick. For the time that I was on the police department, we have never, and I think Paul can kind of verify this, I've never heard the term shoot to kill. It's always been shoot to end the threat, to stop the threat. Stopping the threat, as far as the PD went, as far as the PD was concerned, didn't necessarily mean killing that individual. If you drop that individual and he's still alive, then the threat has been stopped. The question about the taser, why carry a taser? I can tell you, it depends on the individual. You have some officers who, if a person pulls a knife out on them, they'll immediately try to, they'll pull their gun and they'll end the threat by shooting the person with the gun, with the knife. Myself, unless I knew you was some type of knife expert or you were dressed in some kind of kung fu uniform, I myself would pull my taser because I think it's based on the individual who's encountering that particular threat. You know what type of threat that you can handle or you think you can handle. Don't get me wrong, there have been many incidents where an officer has pulled less lethal thinking that they can handle it with that particular tool, and they are no longer living today because that person was so proficient with the knife that they ended up killing the officer with the knife. But I think it goes by, you know, base by basis, and I myself, if you did pull out a knife, I think I would pull out my taser and use my taser in an incident like that. So.
Okay, so we talk about police tactics. Why are we working to reform police tactics and what we teach the police?
This is the beginning of that.
Throughout this, you guys have been talking about how you only use lethal measures when they're necessary, or you should only use lethal measures when they're necessary. Do you all believe that officers follow that guideline?
Can you step back to one side? Step back. You just asked a real good question. Reasonableness is an objective standard. You see that word objective? You're going to have objective and subjective. And I think the question that you're asking and where the controversy comes in at is that many people are seeing that it's being a subjective standard being used. That officers, it's just like Mr. Landor just said, he know what he can take. He know he's not necessarily, unless you're a kung fu expert or a knife expert, then he's not going to do that. Versus Officer Mutar, who may, as soon as you pull the knife, it's on. You understand? And I think that's where the controversy comes in, is that there should be an objective standard. It's just like those objective tests that we hate, true and false. It's either right or wrong. There ain't no middle. It's either true or false. That's an objective test. So, and I think that the problem is coming in is that we have a myriad of officers across the country. We have a tense atmosphere, and then you have these tense situations. And officers, just like we are, like I say, when I take off this lawyer thing, I'm a daddy. They daddies and husbands and too. They trying to go home. This their job. And so the problem comes in when we take the objectiveness out and you start putting that subjectiveness in. And next thing you know, you got people who may be premature in their usage of deadly force. And I guess somewhere along this conversation, there is an escalation though. There is a continuum of force before you ever get to deadly force. They put the stick on your butt before we get down to that gun. And so this is where we're at, and this is what we're trying to get to.
And one thing I want to make clear, in a city such as Lafayette, when you're a police officer, you're usually familiar with the individuals that you deal with the same people pretty much daily. So if Jim DeWino pulls out a knife on me, I know Jim DeWino from 2-3 years ago, and I know he's not a knife expert. So of course, the threat of him throwing that knife or flicking that knife and harming me, you know, I know that, I have that knowledge. Now, if I'm dealing with someone that I've never seen before, then of course that will raise my, you know, my threat as far as, you know, the knife is concerned, or the axe, or the broken bottle. But we deal with, or I dealt with the same individuals most of the time on a daily basis. So I knew their capabilities, I knew their history. And
1 second, I want to go back to your question. Can you repeat it for me real quick?
Do you believe that officers follow these guidelines in practice rather than just saying that we feel?
Right. My answer is it's an individual choice, right? It comes down to the human being in the uniform, right? And a lot of times we generalize these high morals and high standards of the uniform because it's seen as a safe place, right? But it's an individual choice. As a police officer, if you were a police officer and you had a firearm and you can get away with it, right? And you chose to do something negative instead of something positive, right? There's really not much that can be done. So when police officers choose to do these things, it's not that the problem is it's not being corrected, right? It is not being weeded out.
You say that it's an individual choice?
Wait, we're gonna go to somebody else and then come back to you.
This gotta be the last question, we gotta move on.
Okay.
Last answer.
Yes, I wanted to say that if everyone was treated equally, within the police department, when they're upon the citizen, it would be fine. I got stopped about a mile in my neighborhood for apparently running a stop sign, which was a lie. And when I got out of I thought the police officer was going behind somebody else, so I pulled off aside the road. When she stopped me, I came out with my hands up, no movement or nothing, and I asked her, what did she stop me for? She told me, well, you ran a stop sign. So I said, no, I didn't. She said, yes, you did. At that particular time, she took and she called, they had like 4 to 5 other police officers that had came right there in this, with this incident. So then when she asked me for my license, I gave her my license. Then she took and she asked me to sign the ticket. And I told her I'm not signing the ticket because I did not run no stop sign. Well, ma'am, we're gonna have to arrest you. Arrest me for what? Then she asked me for my social security number. I'm not giving you my social security number. Then she asked me for a fingerprint. I'm not giving you a fingerprint. So she calls her sergeant who came in to let me know, well, we might just have to arrest you for refusing to cooperate with a police officer. It takes 5 of y'all to come, and that's how they come deep in our neighborhood. And my point is, on Kali Saloon, within that same week, I'm at this office, cleaning this office. This white man comes in to the garbage can and stop another man from pouring garbage in the garbage container. He pulls out a gun. They call Lafayette Police Department. They come in, assess it. Didn't tell the other guy who was kin to Kali Saloon, didn't tell him jack anything about, you have a legal gun, why do you have this gun? But yet he pulled out the gun on the other man for just throwing garbage. Ask me, was there ever a report? No report whatsoever. So if indeed they could handle, which to me the crucial situation with the police, with the young man pulling out a gun on the other man for throwing garbage in a canister, what would they do with somebody who allegedly ran a stop sign? 5 police officers, patrol car, compared to only 2 that came for someone that had a weapon. That's the problem that our communities have been seeing when it comes down to police officers not being able to assess the situation. And when they see me, I'm a black person, evidently, they want to go ahead and try to like lock me up, throw the book at me, do everything. They don't have no respect for the code of conduct that they're supposed to be abiding by.
Okay.
That the police officers are taught a certain thing, a certain way, but it's their perception. Like a police officer may see me as this extreme threat, where a landlord may not see me as a threat, and that's really the bottom line. So, do we have courageous officers who, really protect and serve, or do we have officers that are quick decision makers? You look like a threat, you breathe like a threat, you walk like a threat, so you must be a threat without even, without knowing?
I'll answer that. What I can tell you is we try to hire a diversified men and women that come work for us, young people that are looking to make a change in the community. And they do the best job that they can with tools they have. And what I mean by tools, I don't necessarily mean physical tools such as a gun, pepper spray, taser. I'm talking about their mental tools, the mental aspect of talking to people and things of that nature. And so we try to train them the best we can. The bottom line is we're all individuals sitting in this room. We are. And so, I've been working in this community 25 years, and I've dealt with thousands of people, and I've always had a good relationship with the people I've dealt with. But it's hard to convey that as trainers in these individuals, because they are individuals, that same demeanor. And so it's tough. It's tough to take these men and women and create the perfect officer. They're not perfect. And are there bad officers? Absolutely. I'll be the first one to tell you. But what I can tell you is the majority of the officers, there are bad officers. And I've said that here. I've said that in Neighborhood Watch program. I've said that, I can say that to you, this nice lady here. And all I can tell you is that we can try to fix it by communicating and talking and not painting all officers with a broad brush. Because
Right.
let me tell you, there are some good officers that are doing good things in this community and communities all around the country. Thank you.
Real fast. Okay, we gotta go next question, but real fast, right? What you're talking about is a systemic problem, right? And that problem is created by supervisors who don't correct their younger peers. And then you got managers and police chiefs, right, that allow these problems to continue most of the time because there's a lack of manpower. That's what I've found anyway, right? With that lack of manpower comes the need for officers to police the community. But if there's no one to replace these officers, there's no one stepping up to the plate that wants to be police officers, then there's nothing you can do. And these guys are going to continue to have a job even though their behavior is bad. And the police chiefs are almost put in a position where either I expose him or fire him. I expose him or keep him on. So when they face with these choices, it becomes very political within a police department to make sure they cover their tracks and things look okay. And this is a systemic problem that has existed for a very long time, and that's what we must correct. Moving on. Next question.
Next question. Have you ever been directly affected by police brutality?
Yeah.
Well, I'll make it a short story. I was at this party before and something happened across the street at this nightclub. I'm not sure what happened over there. Something was bad. Squad of dogs. I think every police officer in Lafayette came out. And us at the separate party, we were standing on the porch like, wow, what is going on over there? After about 10 minutes, everybody went back inside. About 10 minutes later, the police bust the door open, and I'm not exaggerating, I mean they bust the door open, they slammed down the laptop with the music was playing on, they was like, everybody get out, like screaming. So, you know, this was like at the height of all the police brutality stuff, so you mean like, emotions begin to run high, is what I would say. So the police came in there, they was screaming, they was pushing everybody out, and the owner of the house was like, hold up, like, this is a separate party, I watched him go outside and talk to the chief. He was like, this is a separate party, you know, like we had nothing to do with what was going on over there. We are over here, we are in our own, this is my property, like we're not disturbing anything. So the chief said, while most of us was outside, the police who initially, the group that initially put us out, had made it to the back of the house by now, because it was like a shotgun house. So the rest of us had made it out by the chief. The chief told the guy, well, you know, this is a private party. As long as you keep them inside and in your gate, like, you know, not interfering with our investigation across the street, you can keep the party going. So everybody turned around and went back into the house. And the original police officer, was one in general, but a group of them, he was like, y'all people don't listen. I told you get out. Like, he just lost it. And he was like, I said get out now. The owner was like, but your chief, if my chief said something, he would have told me, get out this house, like going crazy. So at this point, the people got upset. And they were like, no, like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is what, and that's when political things came up. They was like, this is police brutality right here. This is what it is. You had no right to do this. Your chief said for us to go back inside. So people started to say things like that. And the surrounding officers started to get mad themselves. And then that's when the clubs came out. That's when the dogs came. And the party was completely shut down. We were walked by police from in front of the door. Like inside their cars, walking with clubs and dogs, saying, leave now, screaming. And it was just like, oh, like where all this came from? And I'm a fair person, so I would say if the police was disrespected, I would say it. But in this particular instance, this was my first time being involved where it was a clear conflict between the police and individuals, and the individuals were in the right and the police were in the wrong. There was obvious miscommunication between the chief and that particular officer, but the officer acted completely irrationally. And he was just rude and disrespectful and brutal. And it was just ridiculous. And I saw that situation begin to escalate quick. And I think that if somebody would have did something or continued to argue with them, it would have been another Black Lives Matter on TV. But everybody just so happened to leave and walk off the property. But that ended very badly. And that was not that long ago in Lafayette.
All the police officers, did y'all file any complaint?
I personally didn't. I don't know if the owner of the house did. he seemed like he was pretty upset. I was scared. I left. I went in my room and I let it go because the party didn't mean that much to me. I just needed to get the situation. It was too many police officers. It was way too many, and they didn't all come to the house. They came to the event that happened in the club. Whatever that was big, so that's why they all were out there. But the party was a small party, so when you have hundreds, maybe not hundreds, like 50, 60, 70 officers outside their cars with dogs and SWAT and bullet clubs, obviously something bad has happened over there to where they're upset, and then they come to your party. It's like, yep, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna get out of the way of whatever is going on. And it just was bad.
Professionalism. Basically, I had the same story, kind of like hers. It was more like a house party. It was just like a bunch of people just had a house, just having a random party. It was in the backyard in the house, and a couple of officers came. They were actually pretty professional about everything. They were nice. They didn't like yell at us. They was like, okay, we're gonna tell you like this. Just turn your music down. Keep everybody in the backyard or in the house, and everything will be okay. We're not gonna come shut your party down. We understand y'all trying to have fun. So she said, okay, we're gonna keep everybody in the backyard. Everybody got in the backyard or in the house. Next thing you know, their chief comes out, and he was like, like at first there was a gate. There was a gate, like we were in someone's driveway, like the driveway. Closed the gate. The officer just basically opened the gate and walked right in, flashing flashlights in people's eyes and faces and said, party's over, everybody gotta go. Everybody gotta go right now. And then we started talking to the chief like, well, these officers said everything was cool. All we had to do was keep everybody in the backyard or in the house, which everybody was. And we turned the music down, and next thing you know, he was like, I don't care what they told you. I said party's over. He was just flashing lights in people's face, and then everybody was upset because they had majority of people there were black, and everybody was getting upset. Thank God there was a after the police. Everybody was like trying to tell them, don't say that, be calm. And then you can see that the officers got mad, and they actually got into one guy's face and was like, either you get to stepping right now, or you going in the back of the car. He was answering a question, and I had to like step in front of him and be like, okay, all right, officer, this is cool, I think all right. And he's yelling in my ear, you need to understand your law, boy, you understand this and that, and I'm like, okay, all right, everything's okay, officer, all right. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. If it wasn't for people being there to control the situation, somebody would have got arrested or worse, probably not saying that.
Did you follow the complaint, sir?
That wasn't the owner of the house. What happened with me, I was kind of young, like around 8 years old, and my cousin, he got arrested in front of me, and I remember slamming him on the car like a beat. And that just gave me a bad vibe in my mom, because I felt like the cops were supposed to protect and serve, and I felt like fearful of him, like instead of feel protected when I felt more fear because of what he did. And I don't know what he did, but I seen him being still, and he was still slamming him repeatedly on the car. And my mom was like, stop, 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 stop. And that just gave me a bad taste.
I think all of those experiences that make the way I look at police today.
I got a question, well, more or less a statement. I feel like we shouldn't fear police officers at all. They're supposed to be here to protect us. And I would dare anyone right now to raise their hand who hasn't been directly or indirectly affected by police, either driving down the street or some type of way. In some type of way, you hear a siren and you're going to turn around and look, fearful. And don't talk about if you're quote unquote driving dirty. I'm serious. You can have your license, your insurance, your registration. You can be totally legal. And as soon as the light comes on and it's behind you, it doesn't have to be behind you. It sends something through you. And I mean, I'm not trying to make this a black or white thing. I'm really not. But I've been in the cars with my white counterparts, and police lights have come on, and the black people tensed up.
you know, they actually tensed up. So, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. In our communities, police officers, not all police officers, the majority of police officers are looked upon as a weapon, you know, a method of weapon, not to help, you know, help you in a way, but to You think hurt police
you.
officers are the threat?
They are the threat in most cases. And I hate to say that because my best friend is an officer, you know, and it's hard, man. I see the good officers, God knows I do, but it's those bad ones, man. It's those bad ones.
I have a question. Do you consider the fact that their job is real stressful and that
I know it's stressful. I know it's stressful, and I also understand that our police officers don't make that much money, and they have to pull shifts doing other jobs, you know, doing other things to make income. And there's a sleep deprivation thing that goes along with that.
But see and that's what we start doing, right? Everything that you said at first was good.
Mhm.
The last few things you said is an excuse for
It's
an
not.
officer who does not want to fulfill the duties of his job. And we cannot allow that. This is what we're demanding, that behavior is eradicated because it's no honor in it. The honor is what's gone out of the policing system, the justice system. There's no honor anymore. And what you're talking about also, sir, is fear that you said a lot of African Americans or people of color or even poor people, a lot of this fear is a residual of a slave mentality, in my opinion, right?
And a little bit of reality, just want to let you know that.
Right.
Go on.
Right, in reality, but it's a residual of a slave mentality. And a lot of black people in this country have been getting chased by law enforcement for a long time. We have to remember some of the very first police departments that were formed to catch runaway slaves, right? And a lot of the police officers